Let's start there then. While we await clarity and confirmation of what exactly has happened here, are you finding it difficult to be surprised?
No, not surprised in the slightest, and it's one of the playbooks. Plane crash, heart attack next weekend, falling out of a ninth floor window. These are all the playbook methods of individuals who have fallen out of favour with Vladimir Putin and his inner circle coming to a sticky demise.
In terms of what this does in Russia, I'm trying to understand if this elevates Putin's position by way of strength, by way of control. What's your analysis on that?
I think it's very early to make a call on that for a number of reasons. One, he seemed weak by not responding much more quickly than this, and that's upset some of those within his inner circle. Some will see this as strength, and he will play this as something that has been planned and all the rest of it behind closed doors. Of course, everything that comes out will suggest it's an accident or something different. But he's also upset a military or militaristic organization, the Wagner Group, and where their tentacles are throughout Russian society and everything else, and the supporters of the Wagner Group. They will be turning around and looking at what's going to happen to them. And of course, we've got the former head of the Russian Air Force, and he was the commander of troops in Ukraine before then being made deputy commander, Surovikin, who came up with the defensive lines out of there, who has allegedly just been sacked today from being commander of the Air Force. He was very closely associated with Prigozhin, and he's now going to be very worried for what's going to happen to him. Therefore, there's going to be an increased amount of potential internal friction and internal threats to Vladimir Putin. He may not have secured his position, he may have dealt with one problem but created others.
In terms of sort of looking for clarity and confirmation, Philip, in your expertise, how quickly will we be certain as to what has happened here? What do we need to fall into place by way of investigation, I suppose?
Well, it's getting the formal statements out from the Russian Civil Aviation Authority and formally been able to be in a position where we can believe that, because, again, anything that comes out of any formal Russian organisation is subject to disinformation. Now, I've been going through a lot of Russian telegram channels since I've heard the breaking news, and there's an awful lot of pictures of plane crashes in the right sort of area and an aircraft falling out of the sky, and pictures of explosions before the aircraft fell out of the sky. All of these seem a little bit coincidental for lots of people to be there with their phones pointing in the right direction and all the rest of it, for this to have been a complete accident. And there's pictures from an aircraft crash site. Some of them are quite gory in the area, and it's being described on a number of different channels by a number of different people as Prigozhin's aircraft, and it having been subject to explosions in the sky before it fell out of the sky. These are unconfirmed at the moment, but there's enough talking around at the moment to suggest that it is more than likely that it is his aircraft that has fallen out of the sky. Whether he got on it or not, whether he had someone had pre-briefed him and he's managed to escape, we don't know yet, and that could take a few days before that appears.
Yeah, of course. There are reports. Reuters suggests that 8 bodies have been found at the site of the crash. Earlier, we were reporting the passenger list, or the list of people on board, would have been 10 in total. Now, that would include crew and passengers. But Reuters, citing reports from Russia, that there have been 8 bodies found at the site of the jet crash. And as you say, Philip, some of those pictures emerging from there, showing an aircraft in flames on the ground. I just want to ask as well, Philip, what the international significance of this is. Clearly, the mutiny, which, by the way, began 2 months ago today, was when the Wagner rebellion began. That was hugely significant because at that point there was a glimpse of a post-Putin future. That was what they seemed to be striving for until they were curtailed. So what is the significance if indeed it turns out that the boss of the Wagner mercenary group has died in this crash? What is the international significance?
Well, I think there's a massive significance here. Underpinning everything that's happening in Moscow and happening in Ukraine and with Russian influence around the rest of the world is a wider criminal network. And it's a lot of those criminal interactions that are keeping the money flowing through the different oligarchs are keeping Putin in power and all the rest of it, with all his finances and stuff out of there. And what's going on inside Ukraine and Prigozhin's influence in Ukraine was a minor part of it. Internationally, it's the Wagner Group's influence across Africa and the potential destabilization that there could be, where you've got heavily armed mercenaries in different countries that are less than stable, who have now fallen out with potentially the country that they were supposedly working for, i.e. Russia, because their boss has just been killed. If it's proven that Prigozhin and Prigozhin's right-hand man were on the aircraft as well. And therefore, it could be hugely destabilizing for what Russia is trying to achieve in Africa. And therefore, that destabilization will have an impact on the international community and stability and people movement and everything else. We're in a very dangerous time at the moment, I think.